the battle, the back and forth between you and Mike over the years. You know, y'all had y'all battles on the court, and even, you know, after basketball, you know, y'all still have a certain level of differences. Do you feel like that's something that's going to always be there, or do you think that one day that'll be something that works itself out?
That's up to him.
December 2025 hit hard when Isiah Thomas sat down on the New Era Detroit podcast and dropped some serious truth about Michael Jordan. The tension still alive, and according to Thomas, the key to ending it has always been in Jordan's hands. What made the episode wild was Thomas's shocking claim. He didn't even know there was a beef until 2020. For decades, Isiah thought they were cool. Their family spent time together, and his own son proudly had a Michael Jordan jersey hanging on his bedroom wall. But then came the last dance during the lockdown, and Isiah watched in disbelief as Jordan looked into the camera and told the world he hated Isiah Thomas. That single word, hated, flipped everything upside down. When asked if their issues could ever be fixed, Thomas didn't hesitate. "That's up to him," he said firmly. Then he explained it straight. "Me and my family, while he was in Chicago, we were extremely nice to him just as brothers. We competed on the floor, but outside of it, his family hung out with mine sometimes. So I always thought we was cool."
Me and my family, while he was in Chicago, we were extremely nice to him. You know, just as brothers, right? You know, now we competed on the floor, but, you know, outside of the floor, right? His family hung out with my family sometime. You know, we had friends and everything, you know, so I always thought we was cool. And even my son had a Jordan jersey hanging up in his bedroom. Right?
That honesty hit different. What really hit home was the detail about his son. The same Isiah Thomas who led the Bad Boy Pistons and invented the Jordan rules had no problem letting his kid hang a Jordan jersey in their home. That shows respect even after years of rivalry. Back in 1992, when the Dream Team controversy exploded, Jordan swore he had nothing to do with Thomas being left off the roster, and Isiah believed him. He understood how the media could twist things and stir drama. But The Last Dance changed all that. Jordan's own producers personally reached out, saying things like, "I can't tell my story without you. You've been so influential and inspirational to me." Thomas showed up sharp in a three-piece suit, ready to contribute with good faith, thinking everything was cool again. Then the docuseries aired while everyone was locked inside during COVID, and suddenly Jordan was telling millions he hated Isiah Thomas. Thomas's reaction was pure emotion. "That stuck, man. I feel like he set me up in his video," he said. And that's when Isiah drew a clear line. His message since then has never changed. If you didn't mean it and you said it to the world publicly, then apologize publicly. Don't have no private meeting with me. But if you meant it, stand on it.
It's COVID and everybody's sitting at home. And he come out and say, "Man, I hate Isiah Thomas." That stuck, man. Right? After, like I say, I put on three-piece suit, came dressed, and so I feel like he set me up in his video, right? So then afterwards, he had people calling, "Hey, tell Isiah, you know, I didn't mean it," and everything else. And this is what I've said, and I'm gonna say it here, and I've always said every time somebody asks me, "Hey, if you didn't mean it, and you've said it to the world publicly, then apologize publicly."
That's right.
Don't have no private meeting with me.
That's right.
And say, you know, "Hey, I didn't mean to." But if you meant it, stand on it. But if you didn't mean it, you know, then say it publicly. He's chosen not to say it publicly. So until he does, this is where it's at.
That's real talk. Jordan reportedly sent people to reach out quietly, trying to smooth things over, saying he didn't mean what he said. But Isiah wasn't buying it. He refuses to accept a private apology for something said in front of the entire world. To this day, Jordan stayed silent. No public apology, no statement, nothing. And Isiah, he's at peace with that silence. Until he does, this is where it's at, and I'm good with that. he declared. The documentary itself gave big chunks of screen time to the Bulls-Pistons rivalry, especially in episodes 4 and 5. But when producers showed Jordan a clip of Isiah defending the 1991 walk-off, he didn't even watch the whole thing before cutting in with, "Well, I know it's all bullshit." Then came the line that ended any chance of reconciliation, the one that hurt Thomas the most. Jordan said flatly, "You can show me anything you want. There's no way you can convince me he wasn't an asshole." And just like that, decades of supposed friendship went up in smoke. Jordan may have acknowledged Isiah's talent, but his words made one thing crystal clear: forgiveness isn't coming anytime soon. Michael Jordan didn't sugarcoat it when he said, "I respect Isiah Thomas's talent. To me, the best point guard of all time is Magic Johnson, and right behind him is Isiah Thomas. No matter how much I hate him, I respect his game." That's Jordan in a nutshell. Honest, blunt, and brutal. In the same breath he praised Isiah, he made it crystal clear that the hatred ran deep. Respect for the game, yes, but love for the man, never. Jordan's bitterness wasn't limited to Isiah either. It stretched across the entire Detroit Pistons organization. "Oh, I hated them," he admitted, and that hate carries even to this day. Those battles weren't just about basketball. They were personal wars. Jordan remembered how the Pistons' brutal defense turned every playoff into a war zone, saying they physically beat the shit out of us. The animosity never faded. Then came the Dream Team story, and that's where things really got messy. Jordan claimed he never demanded that Thomas be left off the 1992 Olympic roster. "It was insinuated that I was asking about him," he said, "but I never threw his name in there." For a few weeks, people believed him, until the truth came out. Sports Illustrated legend Jack McCallum dropped a bombshell on his podcast, The Dream Team Tapes. He released an old 2011 audio recording that completely exposed Jordan's version of events. On that tape, you hear Jordan's own voice saying, "Rod Thorne called me. I said, 'Rod, I won't play if Isiah Thomas is on the team.' He assured me, 'You know what? Chuck doesn't want Isiah, so Isaiah's not gonna be part of the team.'" There it was, straight from MJ himself. That clip proved everything Isiah had suspected. Jordan delivered an ultimatum to keep him off the roster. After years of denial, including his statements in The Last Dance, Jordan was caught red-handed. Thomas was furious, calling it years of fraudulent, blatant lies being covered up by mass marketing and propaganda. He had every reason to be mad. The 1992 Dream Team was stacked with legends: Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, Chris Mullin, Scottie Pippen, Clyde Drexler, Michael Jordan, and one college kid, Christian Laettner. And sitting at home watching it all unfold was Isiah Thomas, a two-time NBA champion, Finals MVP, 12-time All-Star, still one of the best point guards alive. They picked a college player over a proven legend, and everyone knew why. And here's the kicker: Jordan wasn't the only one who didn't want him there. Magic Johnson even wrote about it in his 2009 book, saying, "Michael didn't want to play with him. Scottie wanted no part of him. Bird wasn't pushing for him. Karl Malone didn't want him, who was saying, 'Oh, we need this guy.' Nobody." Harsh truth. Charles Barkley also chimed in later, calling out Jordan's dishonesty. Michael, I guess, had lied for 100 years, saying he had nothing to do with it. And then the tape came out. That one tape rewrote the narrative of basketball history. But to really understand the hate between Jordan, Thomas, and the Pistons, you've got to go back to the late 80s, because this wasn't just rivalry. This was straight-up combat. From 1988 to 1991, the Bulls and Pistons met in 4 straight postseasons. Detroit took the first 3 battles before Chicago finally broke through on the 4th try. The infamous Jordan rules were born after April 3rd, 1988, the night Jordan exploded for 59 points against Detroit. Chuck Daly and his coaching staff went back to the drawing board and created a 4-part defensive plan just to stop him. The rules were simple but brutal. Force Jordan left since it was his weaker side, double team based on his position, hit him hard on every screen, and knock him down every time he touched the paint. Former Piston John Sally summed it up best: the Jordan rules meant F him up. That was their whole mindset. Detroit dominated the series in 1988, 1989, and 1990. The 1990 Game 7, famously called the migraine game, saw Scottie Pippen crippled by headaches, shooting just 1 for 10 with 2 points, while Jordan dropped 31 but couldn't save them. Detroit crushed Chicago 93-74 and went on to their 2nd straight title. That loss lit a fire under Jordan like never before. He hit the gym that summer, packed on 15 pounds of muscle, and mastered the triangle offense with surgical focus. When the Bulls met the Pistons again in 1991, everything flipped. Chicago swept Detroit 4-0. The Jordan rules had been shattered. And then came the infamous walk-off, May 27, 1991, at the Palace of Auburn Hills. With just 7.9 seconds left and Chicago up 115-94, the Pistons stood, turned, and walked off the court without a handshake or a word. Isiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer led the march right past the Bulls bench while Jordan and company watched in disbelief. Only Joe Dumars and John Salley showed real sportsmanship and stayed behind to congratulate them. That moment, that cold walk-off, burned itself into basketball history forever. It was the final act of defiance that sealed one of the NBA's greatest and most bitter rivalries. John Salley later confessed something most fans never knew. He actually tried to check back into the game just to avoid the infamous walk-off. "There's some shit going down I don't want to be a part of," he told the coaches. He saw what was about to happen and didn't want his name tied to it. But when Bill Laimbeer said, "I'm not shaking their hands," Isiah Thomas followed suit, explaining later, "This is how we rode. We rode as a team, one for all for one." Loyalty ran deep, even when it cost him everything. Michael Jordan, though, wasn't having it. His response in The Last Dance cut straight through every excuse. "All you have to do is go back to us losing in Game 7 the previous year. I shook everybody's hand. 2 years in a row. We shook their hands when they beat us." That walk-off wasn't just bad sportsmanship. It became the image that defined how the bad boy Pistons era ended. No grace, no closure, just backs turned and bitterness left behind. What most people don't realize is that Jordan's grudge didn't start there. It went way back, all the way to his rookie season in 1985. At that year's All-Star game, Jordan scored just 7 points on 2 for 9 shooting. And he's always believed that Thomas, along with Magic Johnson and George Gervin, froze him out by refusing to pass him the ball. In a 1992 Playboy interview, Jordan said, "If you go back and look at the film, you can see that Isiah was actually doing that. Once it started getting around that he was freezing me out, that's when the ill feelings started to grow between us." Thomas has denied that story for decades, calling it pure myth, but the damage was already done. And what makes it even sadder is that these two weren't always enemies. One piece of forgotten history changes everything. Isiah's own nephew reportedly lived with Jordan for 5 years when MJ first got to Chicago. The Thomas family looked out for him like one of their own. That's why Isiah felt so blindsided by The Last Dance. He really believed they had something genuine beyond the court. Over time, the NBA world split right down the middle. Scottie Pippen stood firm with Jordan and refused to even entertain peace. In 2020, when Thomas tried to extend an olive branch, Scottie shut it down completely, calling Isiah a snake. That line drew battle lines that still haven't faded. Even Magic Johnson's relationship with Thomas carried its own scars. In his book, Unguarded, Magic dropped a painful truth. When he announced his HIV diagnosis, Thomas allegedly questioned his sexuality. "How can a so-called friend question your sexuality like that?" Magic wrote. "I'm sad for Isiah. He's alienated so many people in his life." Despite that, Magic has repeatedly begged both legends to let it go. "I love both guys," he said, "and I hope that both of them can bury this hatchet and move on, because we're too old for this right now." Wise words, but easier said than done. Dennis Rodman, however, stood by Isiah's side. On the topic of the Dream Team snub, Rodman didn't hold back. He should have been there instead of Larry Bird because Bird was hurt, injured. He could barely play. That's classic Rodman. Blunt, fearless, and always calling out what others won't. And yet, the wildest part of it all, Jordan has stayed completely silent since The Last Dance aired in 2020. 5 years of tension, 5 years of interviews and debates, and not one public word from him about Isiah's accusations or his demand for an apology. Thomas says Jordan's camp has tried to make things right behind the scenes. He had people calling, "Hey, tell Isiah, I didn't mean it," and everything else. But Isiah's not playing that game. "You can't apologize and have a private dinner when you done embarrassed me publicly," he said firmly. Even when both men showed up at the NBA's 75th anniversary celebration in Cleveland in 2022, same building, same event, same air, they never spoke. Two legends, side by side in basketball history, but separated by a silence that still echoes louder than any words ever could. Isiah Thomas says he's still open to peace, but only on his terms. "I'm not afraid of anybody. I'll sit down and speak with anybody. I'm not one who walks around with fear, and I'm not one who walks around with hate," he declared boldly. He's not chasing drama, but he's also not backing down. Meanwhile, Jordan's silence speaks volumes. Either he truly meant what he said in The Last Dance, or he's too proud to apologize publicly because in his eyes, that would show weakness. Both men are legends now in their 60s. Thomas just turned 63 and Jordan 61. And yet, as Magic Johnson said, they're too old for this. Still, here we are, nearly 40 years later, talking about a feud that started at the 1985 All-Star Game. 4 decades of tension, pride, and silence. What makes it even crazier is that Thomas genuinely didn't know there was a problem for decades. For years, he thought he and Jordan were friends. Then, during the pandemic, when everyone was locked inside watching The Last Dance, he learned the truth along with the rest of the world. One sentence, "I hated Isiah Thomas," shattered everything he thought he knew. Thomas summed it up perfectly. "I never knew this dude felt the way he felt until The Last Dance. All these years you've been standing behind a tree throwing stones." Those words hit hard because they came from someone who believed their bond was real. But the resolution Isiah wants seems almost impossible. A public apology from Michael Jordan, a man who built his entire career on dominance, pride, and never showing weakness. That kind of humility goes against everything that made Jordan who he is. And Isiah, he's not letting go until it happens. "Until I get a public apology," he said. "This beef is gonna go on for a long, long time because I'm from the west side of Chicago." That's pure fire right there. 2 icons, 2 unshakable egos, 1 rivalry that refuses to die. The basketball world might have moved on, but this story, it's still burning. Jordan stays silent, Thomas stays defiant, and fans keep watching, wondering if they'll ever find peace. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment on what you think, and I'll see you on the next one.